Oh, good day, everybody. This is Chris with the Ancient Scholar. I hope this video finds you all doing well. It is about midnight on a Saturday. I just finished riding, did a big all-day epic ride in the Silver City area up in the Burro Mountains. One of the few areas at elevation where there is a modicum of a chance of getting some riding in because we've been receiving a fair amount of snow over the last few weeks at the higher elevations, and so many of the trails are frankly trashed. They're in really bad shape, and managed to get some riding in today. Unfortunately, even in the burrows, which tend to be drier, tend to drain very quickly, and tend to be one of the better options for riding, for winter riding in the Silver City area, are completely trashed. Several inches of snow, ice, slush. Really difficult riding. We ended up getting off the single track off of the Continental Divide and exploring some old mining roads, and attempted to summit Jack's Peak, which is one of the highest, I think it's the second highest peak in the Burro Mountains, and there's an access road, kind of a Jeep road, and we ended up hitting incredibly deep snow at about 6,700 feet, and we were not able to make the summit, so it was a failed summit attempt, and it ended up taking a big part of the day to get in there and to get in over our heads. But we had a good time. It was a good adventure. It was just absolutely brutal. And so I actually have been working on my bike since I got home. As you might imagine, it was just a complete muddy, sandy, trashed mess. So I went ahead and did a deep cleaning, and was working on did a little work on the rear derailleur. So I've got everything put back together, and it looks like it's running good. And I'm going to head over to Las Cruces tomorrow. Well, I guess today, here in a few hours, get some sleep, and then head over to Las Cruces and hit the trails there. Las Cruces is at a little lower elevation, and they don't have any of the snow that the higher elevation cities like Silver City and anything north, pretty much north of us. So the riding is really good there. It's just because I work in Las Cruces, I drive there every day. I prefer not to spend my weekends there, but I do want to get some riding in since I've been incredibly busy at work. And so with that preamble out of the way, I just want to give you all a quick update on what is going to be happening here in the next month. There is some bit of serendipity that has occurred, and I'm in the process of procuring a new mountain bike. As some of you who may be ensconced in the mountain biking environment may know, it looks like a YT Bikes, or Young Talent. It's a German-owned company, a direct consumer direct business model company. One of them and YT and Canyon being kind of two of the most notable consumer direct mountain bike companies, is doing an incredible sale on some of their bikes. I believe what they're trying to do is they're trying to clear their 2022 inventory to make way for 2023 bikes. That's my guess, although there is a lot going on in the biking industry right now. A lot of post-COVID letdown, if you will, and so there's actually a lot of backstock of bikes. Looks like the industry as a whole is going to be in for some big changes as the supply and demand dynamics for mountain bikes and mountain bike parts shifts. And over the last few years with COVID, the supply and demand dynamics have favored much overpricing, in my opinion. And so now we have these really overpriced bikes, and now these companies can't sell them. They're not making money, and they're trying to figure out how to clear inventory. that may be part of it. But either way, just some amazing deals on new bikes. And as you know, the consumer direct bikes tend to be cheaper than comparatively spec'd bikes that you get at bike shops, right? So you compare something from Canyon or YT to a similarly spec'd Trek or Specialized or Giant, something like that, and typically the prices are much lower, although you don't necessarily have the support of a bike shop. So there is some trade-off there, but the upfront pricing tends to be a lot less in these direct-to-consumer companies, or when you use these direct-to-consumer companies. And so I kind of jumped onto that deal, and I figure my birthday's coming up, and I'm almost halfway through my 4th decade of life, and I thought, well, my birthday's coming up, I'm getting an incredible deal, I'm actually selling one of my bikes, and so it's just kind of this intersection, this confluence of factors have come together to kind of allow me to justify making this purchase. And so I'm going to be purchasing a bike, or I purchased a bike. I'm now waiting for shipment from YT, and I have purchased a 2022 YT IZZO and the Core 2 build kit. The size is going to be an extra large frame. And a couple reasons why I went with that. First of all, the price right now, the price is amazing right now. Second of all, it's a short travel 29er trail bike, somewhat similar to the Blur that I'm riding, but there are some notable differences. It is not exactly the same as the Blur. So the Blur is a short travel 29er that some could argue falls into the down country or aggressive cross country bike category. After almost a year and a half of riding a Santa Cruz Blur, I would actually argue that's not the case, and Santa Cruz certainly does not advertise that as being the case. I think this is just a very capable cross-country bike. And in fact, the geometry is maybe a little conservative, even for a cross-country bike on the Santa Cruz Blur, and that does make it fun, but you can get it in over your head quite easily when riding this, mainly from a geometry perspective. Now, when I compare this to the IZZO that I'm going to be getting, the IZZO has more travel. So my Blur is a 120 millimeters of travel up front and 115 millimeters of travel in the rear. So this is the Blur TR, whereas the YT IZZO is 130 millimeters of travel up front and 130 millimeters of travel in the rear, although I believe the shock stroke is very similar between the two bikes. So the leverage curve is going to be a little different between both bikes. But that aside, the big differences are in geometry. So the Blur is a large Blur, and the head tube angle is fairly conservative. So it's on the steeper side, even for a contemporary cross-country bike. It's a little on the steeper side. The reach is fairly short, so this is actually a fairly compact bike. And again, it's fun, it's maneuverable, it's very responsive, but when dropping into really technical terrain, it is, how should I put this, a lot of fun as long as you don't push limits too far and get in over your head and things happen. And you've seen some of my prior videos where I've really pushed this bike and I've ridden very technical terrain. It's certainly doable, but you can't make any errors when you're pushing into those limits, because it's not a very forgiving bike. But it's light, fast, responsive, and just climbs all day long. I love it. So the IZZO is a little heavier. The Core 2 is just over 30 pounds. So it's a good, let's see, this bike is about 26 pounds. So you're looking at about 4.5, 5 pounds heavier for the IZZO. Both are carbon bikes. All of the IZZO, the front triangle is carbon, the rear triangle is alloy, whereas the Blur is full carbon. But the main difference is this, while this is a large, the IZZO is an extra large, and so the reach is a lot longer than on the Blur. The head tube angle is, the IZZO has a flip chip in it, so there are a couple different settings, but the head tube angles is about 66 degrees in the lower setting, so it's about a degree slacker than this bike. The effective seat tube angle on the IZZO is about 77 degrees, which is, you know, pretty contemporary with bikes in its category. But the slacker head tube angle and the longer reach, I think, is going to make for a slightly more capable bike than the Blur. So it's going to be more capable in technical terrain, more capable going downhill, while still affording, I would say, reasonable uphill capabilities. So it's going to be more of a trail bike. And I think it's really going to fit in with the bikes that I currently use. I've got a full-on enduro bike. I've got a transition Sentinel, an overforked transition Sentinel. So I have a 170 millimeter fork. I've got the Cascade Link. So it's about, about 150 mils travel in the rear, 64 degree head tube angle with the overfork, 76 degree seat tube angle. So super slack, long, low bottom bracket. It's a full-on enduro bike, and it weighs the weight. It's about a 40-pound bike, super heavy, kill you on the climbs. But I've done some big all-day epics on that bike. And then I have the Blur, which is, you know, super light, climb all day long, really fast, really responsive, very playful, but is definitely not as capable in the more technical settings. And so now I'm going to have this third bike that I think is going to overlap between the two environments. And it's a trail bike, right? And so I'm going to have an actual trail bike, and I think that is going to be maybe the flexible option, right? Where if I want to do a ton of riding, I want to have something that's capable in multiple environments, I can kind of have that overlap with this bike. And so that's my justification. That's kind of where my my intuition is at this point in time. Now, it's not going to be a stock Core 2. So the stock Core 2 IZZO comes with an NX drivetrain. It comes with Fox Performance suspension. And when I converted my Blur over to the IZZO drivetrain, I have some stuff left over. So I've got, for example, I've got GX rear derailleur, I've got GX shifters, I've got a cassette. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the NX off of the IZZO, and then I'm going to go ahead and convert the drivetrain to a GX. See, the NX runs the old HG drivers, right? So I'm probably going to have to, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to throw an XD driver on as well. I probably won't do that right away, though. I'll just swap the derailleur and shifter and then run that NX cassette until it gives me problems, and then look at upgrading at that point. The IZZO Core 2 comes with the DT Swiss 370 hubs, and there's an upgrade, and it's relatively easy to swap out drivers, so I'm not too concerned about that. I've run DT 350s on my transition, so I've had pretty good experience with the DT Swiss hubs, so no big concern there. So essentially, I will have a Core 2 with the Core 3 drivetrain, and then I'll run everything else stock. In addition to that, I have a ride wrap kit, frame kit. I've had great luck with good experience with ride wrap. I fully ride wrapped the Blur. I'm going to do the same thing with the IZZO. I have a mud guard that I'm going to put on it. I put mud guards on all my bikes. It's just one of those things. Have to figure out what kind of pedals I want. I'm maybe considering some E13 composite flat pedals. We'll see. Typically I run the Race Face Chesters, but I saw a pair of E13s that look pretty comparable to that. I can get a little cheaper, so I may do that. And then I have some lizard skin protectors that I'm going to put in select areas on the new bike to beef up areas like the down tube and the top tube where damage is likely to occur, and so that's just going to provide some extra frame protection on top of the ride wrap. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at in the next few weeks. So hopefully I would say by the middle of March, maybe the end of March, I'll have everything together, and I will be able to take the IZZO out and give you all an impression and a review of it. I have never had any experience with YT bikes whatsoever, so I don't know what to expect, but the geometry looks good. The price for performance looks really good. As far as the way the bike works, it uses a horse link. It's a 4-bar suspension. I'm very familiar with that because that's what the transition uses, and it's a type of suspension platform that's been around for a long time. It's pretty reliable, very responsive. So it's nothing crazy there. So it'd be interesting to have a 4-bar suspension in a shorter travel package. So I'm really curious to see what the suspension kinematics are going to be like and what it's going to feel like. I've had experience with the Fox 32 performance fork on a 2015. It was a 2015 Trek Fuel EX7, and I really liked that. That was a great bike, man. I love that thing. I rode the shit out of it. And so I don't really have a problem with Fox performance. You know, I run a Marzocchi Z1 on my Sentinel, and you know it uses, they call it the rail damper, but it's essentially the same kind of damping system that you find in the Fox performance, you know, because Fox owns Marzocchi, and I've had great experience with it. I don't need super sophisticated suspension adjustment, you know, super sophisticated high and low speed compression and rebound. I just need some basic compression, some rebound, put air pressure in. I can throw volume spacers in to modulate it, and I'm good to go. So I'm fine with Fox performance suspension, and I'm really excited for this. I'm really looking forward to it, and just the amazing the amazing deal that I got on this bike is just amazing. So I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to experience a new bike. Like I said, I've never had any experience with YT. I've got a friend who has not a Capra, the Jeff C. He bought a Jeff C a couple years ago, and he has absolutely loves his Jeff C. He's still riding it to this day, and has had nothing but good things to say about it. So super excited to see if that is going to be the same with the IZZO. I should also say that the color that I ended up going with is the ice. I believe it's called ice gray, and it looks sexy AF. I mean, it just look. I'm sick of like this whole stealth look of you know, this stealthy blowout. You know, my obviously my Santa Cruz Blur is that, you know, dark gray, but I'm just sick of like all black or all red bikes. I just like different colors, and this like this blue gray misty color that it looks sick. So I'm super excited to have a bike with a different color than I normally ride, and the uh, the edges and the way that the IZZO is designed, it's just, it looks really sexy. It looks like a real sexy bike. You just kind of have that nice straight line from the basically from the top tube all the way back. You know, it's just one straight line, crisp, sharp angles. It just looks really good. It looks like it's a good looking bike. It's a handsome bike. So from an aesthetic perspective, I'm kind of excited as well. So there we go. All right, so I've been babbling on for just over 20 minutes, but you know, that's my update, and yeah, we'll see how things are looking in the next few weeks to a month. I'm really excited to share my experiences with you all. All right, everyone, I got to get to bed because I'm tired now, but I'll see you all in the next video.